Well, good morning. A bit of an early start for me today. I had to drop my sister-in-law off at the airport on my way down to the Eurotunnel, which meant I left home at like 4 a.m. So I'm feeling a little bit groggy right now, but I'm excited for the day ahead because I'm heading to the Netherlands, I think just outside Rotterdam, to collect some parts for my Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale. I'll explain when I get there as to why those parts are in the Netherlands and why I'm driving over to collect them rather than just having them sent back to me in the UK. But for now, let me talk to you about this RS6 GT because it is wild looking. I mean, arriving at the Eurotunnel pre 6 a.m. this morning, I was a little embarrassed because you're really peacocking everywhere you go in this car. It's like, hey, look at me. You are unmissable. The thing is though, apart from the way it looks, at least from behind the wheel, it's kind of just an RS6 performance. You have to manage your expectations slightly. I set off this morning thinking like, this is going to be hardcore. Like, am I going to want to do lots of miles in this thing? I'm assuming it's going to be really firm and brutal and loud and rattly, but no, it's none of those things. It potentially has slightly sharper suspension, and we'll get into that later because, well, actually that's really the only key difference. Audi sent me this kind of overview pointing out the difference between this and an RS6 performance, and mechanically, the manually adjustable coilover suspension, which drops the ride height by 10 mil, is the only kind of unique thing, performance-wise, that this car has. You've of course got the carbon fibre bonnet, the carbon fibre fenders, the big rear spoiler, the unique wheels, the unique livery, all of that stuff, but that's all visuals. But look, I'm not going to knock it. This is a limited production run, a bit of a last hurrah for the RS6 as we've known it over the last God knows how many years. And I enjoy it. As in your face as it is, I'm kind of here for it. So I'm not going to judge too quickly. And you know, maybe that suspension is going to kind of really transform the dynamics of the car. Let's see, but it's a nice place to sit. And yeah, as I say, I'm excited for the day and the days ahead because I've got this car for a few days. For now though, I think I should catch up on some sleep because yeah, I'm feeling it. I've got about 15-20 minutes until we pop out of the Eurotunnel into mainland Europe. And then I've got like a 3.5-ish hour drive the other side. So yeah, let me get some rest. And then the adventure and the experience in this very full-on RS6 GT continues. Well, I've made good progress since I last spoke to you. I've had a couple of coffees and I'm some 400 kilometers down the road. I've actually just crossed into the Netherlands, stopped for some fuel, and I'm like 35 minutes away from my destination. Some of you might not know, I actually used to own an RS6. It wasn't that long ago now, it's probably only about 18 months or so ago. It's quite a short-lived ownership experience though, because whilst I loved the idea of the RS6 and I adored the spec of the car that I bought, I know the car itself just never really lived up to my expectations. I actually found it a bit disappointing. Having said that, being back behind the wheel of an RS6 now has made me realise that I've really missed this engine. I mean, this is, I was going to call it a peach, but that's unfair because it's a freight train of an engine. I do love a V8 in general. I think most of my favourite cars have V8s in them. I'm a little bit biased when it comes to V8s, but yeah, this one is just a stonker. And on a drive like this where you're just doing many miles on big open roads, it's glorious. At any point it wants to unleash its, wait for it, 630 PS. It's the juicier version that you get in the RS6 Performance. Things like 10 or 15 horsepower more than the version that you get in the standard RS6. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't do great fuel economy around town. That was something I used to complain about a lot with my car because I used it a lot around town. But out here on a long motorway run, doing like 25 mpg, which I think is fine from a big twin turbo V8. Well, some 500 kilometers later, I've arrived at Sticky Works. If you are a regular viewer of my Ferrari content, the name of this place has probably given away the parts that I'm here to collect. Yes, I've had the sticky buttons of my Challenge Stradale repaired, I guess, is that the right word? I'm not sure, we'll find out in a second when I bring in Maurice from Sticky Works to talk through what he actually does in here. But if you haven't been following, I'm currently in the process of kind of restoring my Challenge Stradale. It's getting repainted, it's getting retrimmed. I think I'm going to be addressing some of the audio setup, just a whole load of things. And one of the real areas that needed to be addressed were the sticky buttons. It's something that plagues all Italian cars from like the late 90s to the early noughties, I think even through the 2010s. A lot of people call it Enzo's revenge, because essentially Ferrari and other Italian manufacturers seem to put this strange finish, which I think is paint, on a lot of their buttons and touch points that with time just kind of disintegrates on your fingers, especially if you're in somewhere hot. It kind of melts away. So not only are they horrible to touch, but also like you sort of lose the actual lettering. It's just a bit of a disaster. And some of the buttons in my CS really were in bad shape. So considering that I'm repainting it, retrimming it, you know, basically trying to get it back to some kind of factory-esque look, it seemed mad to not also tackle the buttons. So that's what I'm here to collect. But before I leave with a box and do 500 kilometers back home, let's chat to Maurice and understand what goes on here. What magic is taking place? This is a 599 that you've been working on?
This is 599, still in progress, but yes.
And you said that you've even had some 458s, some FFs. I didn't realise that cars made that late still suffer from these issues.
The 458 are also an FF. We had an FF last week.
Oh wow!
So
okay.
They
Did
have
Ferrari
the same problem.
change any of their like when you're stripping it back? Do you see any differences, or they just kept making the same?
Sometimes the undercoat is different, but the top coat it all gets sticky.
You think they might have learned from the waves, but clearly not.
Clearly not.
Kept putting on this Enzo Revenge's paint.
Yes. At first we get rid of all the paint. All goes off. We start from zero. That's the main thing. If you leave some on, it will be bad anytime soon.
So you strip it right back?
We strip it right back to bare plastic.
Okay.
Then we do all the repainting, and at last the laser attaching. All the details we laser back right on, and then a final soft touch coat.
Okay, because it's paint, right? Like it is
paint.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Which is so weird because it doesn't feel like paint.
No, that's
under
that's the trick of it. Yes.
So this is my magic box, right? I don't really want to show too much, even though people can imagine what it's going to look like. It's just a load of buttons. But I feel like we need to wait until the car's fully back together to admire all your incredible work. But if people want to get in touch, they can just send you parts from. Are you doing parts anywhere in the world?
Yeah, anywhere in the world.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
So as long as they can dismantle them and get them to you.
Yeah. That's the main thing. We don't get fully cars.
Okay.
Only parts.
Fine.
Yes.
Only parts, and then you just and roughly time-wise, like I know how long it's taken to do my parts, but what, a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Okay.
Mostly.
Wow.
It depends a little on but
how bad it is.
Yeah, but the 2 weeks.
Thinking of my reverse
weeks,
button, but yeah, I mean, look, then as I say, these aren't finished up, but you get essentially back to new. And should these last any longer? Like the stuff that you're putting on?
Yeah, surely. Yes.
That should then last.
They don't get sticky. No, never.
Oh, that's such a good thing to hear. Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much. I'm glad that I could swing by and grab them from you, and I'm so excited to get back in the car.
Yeah.
Thank you, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
All the best. I got to be honest, I'm getting a little bit impatient with my Challenge Denali restoration. I mean, it's not fair for me to be impatient because you can't rush these things, they take time, but I just want the car back and collecting these buttons. It feels like a step in the right direction, but yeah, we are still quite some time away from a finished product. But anyway, I never really explained why I've driven all this way to collect these buttons rather than asking Maurice just to send them to me in the post. It's because I really wanted to get some miles under my belt behind the wheel of this car. The issue I have with the RS6 GT is that I think it's too much. Like, the RS6 has always been a kind of dream daily for so many people. Like it's that kind of super wagon that does everything, the one-stop shop. It wasn't quite that for me, but I still understand the desirability. But in this GT, guys, I mean, you'd be so hard pushed to convince your other half that this is a sensible family daily. And at the same time, it's still well over, well, it's not well over, but it's still over 2 tons. So it's not a sports car that you're going to just use at the weekend. So where does it sit? And I wanted to understand if it could still do the mundane. Does it look crazy, but actually is still just very usable? And the answer is yes, absolutely yes. And so, I've immediately come to a bit of a conclusion. Don't buy the Arcona White. In the UK, you have two other choices, black or Nardo Grey. And black, this just looks like a slightly fettled RS6. Nardo Grey, it's still quite in your face. But I think then you get past the insane looks and you can just focus on the fact that it's limited and a little bit better and a little bit more special. It's not so like, ah! That's my advice off the back of what's going to be 1,000 kilometers today. But tomorrow, I want to get out and increase the speed or increase the dynamics and see if the suspension and some of the other tiny amount of fettling that's been done, the 15 kilos that's been shaved, has improved sort of handling, or at least British B-road driving, because that's an area that my own personal standard RS6 really fell flat on. So yeah, back to the UK and off to find some twisty roads. Well, it's a fairly miserable day for day 2 with this RS6 GT. I'm back in the UK. It's raining, it's windy, it's cold, the roads are super greasy and flooded in parts, but it's no bad thing for an RS6. You know, the benefit of driving or owning a super wagon is you can use it on days like today and still extract some of the performance. I was a little bit concerned that the GT variant might have been a bit too much. On a day like today, maybe it was going to be held back, but it is still infinitely usable. We've got some pretty aggressive sporty tyres on this thing that don't have that much tread. They're from Continental, and I am moving around a little bit, so I've got to be a tad careful, but the way this thing can still put down its power is mind-boggling. Now, this suspension, has it transformed this car? I'm not sure. I mean, I haven't driven an RS6 recently enough to really tell you how different it is, but what I like is it's not uber firm. There's still a really nice ride quality. You just pick up on it every now and again, a bit more of a sharpness over certain bumps, but like a lot of the time you're just gliding. I know this road very well. It is not smooth. I've been down here in many different cars and it can throw me around at the best of times, but this thing just still hovers. And this is a very tight section through here, so I've got to be mindful because this car is big. And as I say, on a day like today, I'm not going to get a lot of grip through these tyres, but you can just fire it up the hill. A bit narrow with the van. It's funny because people just obsess over these cars, but in our country, they are a bit too big. Now, ceramic brakes, I just got on them there. They perform better the faster you're going and the harder you stamp on the pedal. If you really get on the pedal, God, they perform well. If you just sort of hover on the pedal, you'll be like, give me more, give me more. So just remember, stamp. Annoying that we caught this 3 Series because this is a nice little, almost like a little bit of a jump. It's been interesting to see how the car performed. But anyway, let's go for a casual overtake. Overtaking in this car is not difficult. So much torque. I've forgotten the total number, but it is an insane amount. But yeah, I mean, it's so impressive, this thing, and it is so nice to drive. On a day like today, on a road like this, the speed is just there. You don't really have to sort of think about it too much. You just have to remember to scrape off the speed as you get towards the corners. But it is a mega thing to drive anywhere, point A to point B. Yesterday to the Netherlands, today just on a sort of back road to go and get a coffee or something like that. Yeah. Really good. I don't know if it's better, and it needs to be significantly better because we haven't talked about the price yet. Now, in this country, an RS6 Performance starts at £117,500. The RS6 GT, £177,000. Yeah, a 60 grand price hike. I get it. It's a super limited production car, just 606 units worldwide. That is nothing. It's less than the new Ferrari F80 hypercar, for example. But considering that there aren't that many mechanical changes, I just don't think there's enough to warrant that big a price gap. If you're just buying it because you want a plaque, you want a numbered car, fine, you're a collector, so it probably doesn't matter anyway. But if you want the ultimate RS6, if you want the ultimate daily wagon, I think it's too much. Just go and buy an RS6 Performance, go to Urban, get a body kit or some nice wheels, and you're going to save yourself 60, 70 grand. I imagine, like so many of these limited number cars, you have to kind of be invited to buy one, but there are already 2 on the used market, and they're being listed at over 220 grand. Can you imagine paying over £200,000 for an RS6? I will be honest, this car is winning me over. I do actually quite like it. I came into this not expecting to like it, but it's just fun. Like, it's a fun and silly thing to drive around, and it is so good. But it's just too much. Just get the RS6 Performance and do the livery yourself. So I'll continue to enjoy putting around it. Thank you, Audi. I will see somebody if they bought it and think you are clinically insane. But maybe being insane is a good way to be. Nice to be back at podium, enjoying some coffee, enjoying a sandwich. Then we'll hit the road once again. Now, that is the TWR Supercat testing mule. Not sure if you would have seen that on camera. Maybe I shouldn't be showing it anyway, but maybe more than that another time. I got a gift. I was walking out, and I was handed this, the lovely new Torque blend from the team at the Podium Roasters. Lots of you will remember, I used to do the STG blend down here. It's kind of on hold at the moment. I wanted to freshen it up, do something new, change it up. We've been making that blend for a couple of years. Felt like it needed a breath of fresh air. So whilst we're working on that, I thought I'd check this out, so that's very nice of them. And just before I wrap up from today, to do a little bit more research on the pricing of this car, because prior to the GT, I'd say the most extreme version of the RS6 was Abt's RS6R. Now, obviously, that's not Audi themselves, but it's a close affiliate, I would suppose. Abt, probably one of the most famous or best tuners of Audis. And the RS6R pushed power up to 690 PS, so 60 more than this. They also did coilover suspension and a few other tweaks as well, and put on very loud shouty exhaust, some aero or some body kit changes. As far as I can tell, the price for that car, 160 grand, and they only made 125, so more for less. Just can't help but feel like, in general, this GT is a tiny bit disappointing. The look suggests it's so much more than it actually is. Anyway. It really does tell you something about this car when even the team at Lamborghini are like, ooh, that's a little in your face, isn't it? Come down here to Lamborghini Tunbridge Wells to have a meeting with the Lamborghini team and an introduction to the Temerario, which is the Huracan replacement. I'm quite excited about that car. I really enjoyed the Rev World Tour when I drove it at the end of last year. That Huracan has some, that Temerario has some interesting tech and a V8, and I've told you how much I love a V8 in this video, so yeah, let's stay tuned for that. Anyway, how do I feel about this car? What is my summary going to be? It's been an interesting few days, and as I think I've already hinted at, I've enjoyed it so much more than I thought I was going to. And if I'm honest, it's brought back some respect for the RS6 because my own ownership experience was a little negative. I kind of looked down on these cars ever since. I've just been like, yeah, it's not what everyone thinks it is. But spending some time behind the wheel of this one, I've enjoyed it and I like it. So it is clearly good to kind of win me back around. It is clearly good. But yeah, the price, the livery, all these things just make it feel a bit silly as well. So I don't really know how to sum things up, apart from thanks to Audi for letting me have a go. And well, let me know your thoughts. You can be the deciders. Put in the comments below, is this thing the ultimate RS6? Is it unbelievably cool, or is it a bit too much? Who knows? Hope you've enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you have. Stay subscribed for plenty more videos to come.